so that I just would like to say that I've listened to the public and have heard what they've said. And what amazes me is almost without exception, the people opposed, when I engaged them in dialogue, they had a misunderstanding on basic facts. So I think the only way that one can really understand where, where the issue does rest is to make sure that there's some sort of understanding and agreement on the facts, and not just a based on misinformation.
Thank you very much. If I might ask a question of Councillor Darling. Councillor Darling, when we were in the sessions at budget deliberation, you were opposed to the motion of a raise. At this time, as someone who was originally opposed, have you since had any meetings or thoughts otherwise regarding that motion, or are you of the same thought process as prior?
Well, thank you for the question. I was going to get my 2 cents worth in. I do agree that there could be a correction in council remuneration. We have discussed it each year in the third term, or the third year of the term. There was a raise given each time, maybe not sufficient as some councillors would think. But I did not support the remuneration at this time because, like we all said, we knew what the salary was coming in. I think most of us knew past policy was year 3. Whether we want to change that in year 2 or whatnot, it's open for discussion. But at this time, I don't think giving ourselves a raise in the first 3 months of a term is at all right. But again, maybe use Councillor Bouton's correcting the salary grid has been done for our staff before. But in the first 3 months, I just couldn't live with it. So I'm going to stay with my firm commitment that no, at this time, I don't believe in a remuneration increase. Yet it's to be discussed in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Cleveland. I too have to remain consistent. While I agree with salary correction or fair compensation in principle, as I stated during budget deliberations, I support the existing bylaw where we review this in year 3 of the term and set it up for the next term of council. I do have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to perhaps either Mr. Larmer or Mr. Davey. So council just passed the operating budget in an earlier motion. That included salary increase. If this bylaw didn't pass, how does that impact the approval of the 2023 operating budget? Does it just reset itself? Can you help me understand? We passed the operating budget, and if this bylaw doesn't pass, what happens to those budget lines?
Through worship to Deputy Mayor. So the adjustment on the 23 budget was $23,115 to include the phase-in of the salary and benefits change that it would make. I think what would happen, since the budget has been passed in total, is that would just end up being an underspend when we get to the end of 2023. Council will recall that we have committed to looking at those type of underspends and making a transfer at year end to the tax rate stabilization reserve. So this would just be similar to when we've budgeted for new hires that don't happen maybe July 1st until September 1st. We end up with an underspend at the end of the year, so I think this would be similar.
Councillor?
Remuneration is the correct word. You're right. Remuneration. There you go. It's getting late in the day. I do believe that our council pay is not where it should be. Let me make that clear. But I do think that this is the wrong time to do it. And in year 3 or year 2, it may be that's when it should be. But at this point in time, I just don't think it's the right move. And that's why, again, I won't be supporting this motion. Although I do think that we should be looking at this in the future and bringing up our pay the way it should be. So, that's my.
I look at this time, is there any council who'd like to speak? Councilor Reynolds?
I have a question for staff, thank you. Should this pass, does each member of council have an option on whether or not to accept the raise? Could they turn the raise down and not accept that?
Through you, I think every council member has, the ability to either accept the payment or not. That would be up to you. The treasurer, I'd see to them how that would happen. It just would get funneled to that particular member of council's bank account. I would be assuming that's how it would happen.
So then the councillor could say that they chose not to, even though it had passed at council, they chose not to accept the additional salary.
So through you, Your Worship, I want to understand your question better, if you can restate that.
All right. If I chose to say no, or say yes, and this passed, could I then say, even though I voted for it, I have chosen not to accept this salary increase, let's say until January 1st, 2023, or July 1st, January 1st, 2024, or beyond that period, or not take it at all. In other words, keep my remuneration as it is today, even though council has voted for a change in salary ranges.
Something I have to think about, your question. I think every individual councillor has the right to do what they wish with the benefit that they've been provided for in an approved bylaw. The bylaw, as you say, it says its position, it's mayor, deputy mayor, and councillors, so it's not an individual. That's the right of that office that this council approved back in 2015, amended in 2018, and then maybe potentially today. So if a member would make a statement in open session or something that they would not be accepting the pay as approved through bylaw, that could happen, but in regards to a member doing their own motion or statement on the floor, official motion resolution, I wouldn't recommend that, because it's based on the position, not the individual's thoughts on themselves receiving pay.
I want to make that clear, that should it pass, a councillor then could go to administration and say, I refuse to accept the raise. And that is open to them to do that. That's what I'm suggesting.
I would maybe let the treasurer talk on that, because it would just be in regards to a calculation of what the previous amount was to what the additional is, and that would be agreement there. But again, I think these questions are very specific, with only having a few seconds to think about them as well too. So maybe the treasurer can provide explanation on that.
Yes, I would suggest that if any member of council would have the option to say, instead of that additional amount being credited to me, I would prefer to see it sent to a charity, or the town of Cobourg could be the charity of choice in this case, where a councillor could say, direct a portion of my pay or all of my pay or the extra pay to that source. But I think in reality, the pay would be whatever is set by bylaw, and then how the individual wishes to deal with that pay would be up to that person, how they want to direct all of it or a portion of it.
One second follow-up, if I may. Again, given the age of certain councillors, perhaps the public should know that they are ineligible for certain benefits that are paid to, shall we say, younger councillors.
Yes, I believe there is a delay, Jim. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe the CAO treasurer can give that, the number, in regards to that. I'm not sure the human resources part of that.
So through your worship to Councillor Barber, I do have to apologize off the top of my head. I'm not confident to speak to the specifics of each of the benefits plan with relation to age. I can certainly get, have HR confirm if there are any exceptions, but I wouldn't feel comfortable saying with 100% assurity what those may or may not be at this moment.
Thank you for that. I have just one more thing to say. I too have been listening to constituents. I've had many emails and phone calls and face-to-face situations. In my experience, again speaking with many business people, the fact that our remuneration is what it is, they think that they wonder why we would do the job. Like all of you, I knew what the wage was, and I certainly ran for the job knowing what the wage was, but it comes down to, and as it's thrown back to me by many business folks, it comes down to the fairness of it all. We all know how hard that we work, how many hours are involved, the kinds of things we have to do. And I think that it takes some gumption at this particular point to what may be a decision that would be unpopular with certain individuals in the community, but on a long-term basis, I think that there is an opportunity here to right an obvious wrong, following up on Councillor Bureau's talk, which is, he says it's wrong, but it's not the time to do it. Well, I happen to say that now's the time to do it, now's the time to move forward, now's the time to make the commitment and prepare ourselves for 3 years from now so that people can run for this job knowing that they are going to be paid a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barber. In follow-up to yours, I'd like to speak to this as well, as this was my motion originally put forward at the budget. Perhaps I'm showing my lack of political experience in this comment, but I believe that it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. I'm not one to play politics, nor am I one to placate to the loudest voice. I ran on this. I actually said this during my campaign, that one of the first things I would do is to right the wrong that has been passed down through council after council. I've gone on the record publicly, I've written to the newspapers. I have defended this because it is the right thing to do. I don't agree that there's a wrong time to do the right thing. I will never agree that there is a wrong time to do the right thing. And I understand that this motion may not pass and that the raise will not come. But I cannot pass over this opportunity to speak to the absurdity of this. We are talking about a $20,000 increase to this budget. There was less discussion about hundreds of thousands of dollars in random spending to placate loud voices in this community. There was less discussion and newspaper articles written about a $150 million county budget. There were less news articles written about a $125,000 allocation to pickleball courts. We are talking about a $20,000 raise to positions that have been underpaid for decades in this community. This is the right thing to do for the right reasons. And I understand it doesn't play well politically, and I understand that there are those who wish to maintain that reputation in the community of always listening, and I respect that. But I can not ever state emphatically enough that there is never a wrong time to do the right thing. And that's all I have to say at this time. Thank you. At this time, I look to any other councillors to make questions or concerns. Seeing none, we will call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Cleveland. I would just like to elaborate on one thing that you said about consideration around random spending and increases in the budget. In my personal opinion, I don't think that random spending that benefits user and benefits to the taxpayers, services that they benefit from, is a random act of spending. I think an immediate raise to an elected official 3 months into our term is a random spending of money. And I do think that we have a bylaw in place that this council can consider in year 2 or year 3, and give this more thought and help bring the community along in how council compensation can be handled by an elected body. But I just want to be very clear to the taxpayers that it's not playing politics to deliver the services that they ask for and benefit from. So I don't see service levels of random acts of spending. I see an immediate increase to council compensation as a random act of spending.
Perfect, then I can have a follow-up question, Deputy Mayor. Why is it in the past you have supported this, and I've been on the record as disappointed that previous council did not support the raise? That was the right thing to do at that time, but now it's not. Could you maybe elaborate?
Absolutely, thank you for the opportunity. I was very supportive of a council increase the last term of council several times, and it didn't pass by the will of the council at that time. As I mentioned during budget deliberations at the beginning of the month, there was an oversight in the process. We didn't deal with it in year 3, we dealt with it in year 4. It was an election year. I was very disappointed that it didn't pass then. I will continue to advocate and push for fair compensation of council positions, but I would like to reiterate, there is a time and a mechanism in place, and that's year 2 or year 3 of the council term, in which at that point in time of our term, I will be advocating for that pay increase. What I am against is us doing this 3 months into the job and not having proper education and the foresight in bringing the community along and understanding how this process is in place. So I have always been in support of trying to advocate for council compensation through the existing means. And I look forward to having this conversation year 2 or year 3 as the current bylaw outlines for this term of council.
Councilor McDowell?
Yes, I think this is obvious, but there's only one person on this council that's actually new. I think most of the people on this council have past experience in municipal governance. And so I do take issue with that, and but I do respect your opinion, Deputy Mayor.
All right, well, I guess that's all that has to be said. Go ahead, Mr. Lermer.
Recorded vote as requested by Deputy Mayor Nicole Beattie, starting with Nicole Beattie.
No.
Mayor Lucas Cleveland.
Yes.
Councillor Adam Bureau.
No.
Councillor Brian Darling.
No.
Councillor Aaron Burkett.
No.
Councillor Miriam Bouton.
Yes.
Councillor Randy Barber.
Yes.
Motion is defeated. At this time, we move on to 19.1, I believe. Nope, sorry, we are at 18. 17.1, perfect. So the petition to deny the sleeping cabin pilot project.
What do you think of that?
It's just shows what community can do when you join forces and for a common cause.
Did you think it would happen?
I quite honestly didn't think it would, but just more raising awareness and getting people to ask questions.
It shows a one person without the community, but I mean, the community helped and everything, but I mean, did it raise your Does it help you that one person can make a difference, or one community, or things can change?
Yeah, it just shows things can change and things can happen when we just start asking questions. And
And that's all you did, really?
yeah,
That's all you did? It came from starting to asking questions to yesterday to now?
exactly.
Why were you here, just to see that pass?
Yeah, see that pass and just,
Because you're not one to follow, really.
no, but it's something that I put a lot of time and effort into, and just wanted to see it through to the end, I guess.
Were you surprised?
A little bit, yes.
Shocked?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to, didn't know how to react at first.
But happy?
Very happy, extremely happy.
Good.